Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here, and we're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. It is the week of September 7th, 2023. Current challenge, Regime Hawkgirl. It's a 1-week repeat. Required characters are Catwoman, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday, available as cheaply as bronze, and silver in the store. Her passive is Shock and Awe. When Hawkgirl tags in, she disables all opponents' special attacks for 5 seconds. If she gets 200% on Special 2, it will become a critical hit. She's got 1100 attack and 1000 health. Last available November the 10th, 2022. So she's got middling stats. About 100 less total base stats than last week's Godfall Superman. And so, alright, so here's the thing. Before we forced ourselves to play with Regime Hawkgirl, there's a few things we used to think. We used to think that she wasn't the best card because her base stats were lower than the more recent stat beasts. Not a surprise, since she hasn't been around for years before her challenge came back in March 2021. And it's an interesting passive to auto-crit if you get 200% chance on Special 2. Or sorry, if you get 200% on the minigame on Special 2. It isn't too hard to do. You just gotta start tapping where you know the circle will appear before it starts, and you should have a good chance of hitting 200%. If you wait until the circle shows up, it actually disappears, or seems to disappear a little bit quicker. But the tapping game is probably the easiest of the mini games to hit the full 200%. And at the time, before we started playing her, I wasn't a big fan of disabling specials temporarily, since opponents are still generating power. So, it's still better than most gears disabling specials, where there's only a percentage chance. It does it every time she tags in. And I used to think that in the case of Regime Hawkgirl, unless you knock them out in that 5 seconds that you've got, they're ready to drop a special on you in 5 seconds. But yeah, that's not great, right? So her value would be in completing the collection. If the sort of underlying thought was that if you want to make the most of her disabling specials, you need to be ready to take out your opponent fast before they get their specials back, which usually means having power when she tags in so she can drop some specials and do a lot of damage. After playing with her for the last few days, I can admit now that I think I was a little bit wrong. As you can see from the demo with her in this video, the disabling of her specials is actually, to borrow a Pokemon term, super effective. The key is having, well, it's a few things. One is having Hawkgirl Prime as your teammate. Hawkgirl Prime's passive that lets you tag out sooner than normal means that you can tag out Regime Hawkgirl before the opponent's specials are enabled, or before the disabling wears off, however you want to think about it. You also see on her team Rebirth Raven with Enchantress gears, making her the perfect third teammate. Anybody, I think, with Enchantress has the potential to be helpful, since the skulls, when you do a special, act effectively as a specials disabler. So you disable specials, you keep them disabled while you tag out Hawkgirl, and they stay disabled until you tag her back in with her renewed power. Rebirth Raven is sort of ideal. If you were using somebody else, that other person would need to have power when they tag in to be useful in order to trigger Enchantress Companion Gear skulls. And Rebirth Raven is super. Other than against Static and Red Lantern Hal Jordan, and maybe, off the top of my head, I'm thinking if they're using the Batman Ninja helmet and they can't have their power stolen, Rebirth Raven will steal the opponent's power if they have it. You do a special with Raven, and then you can tag out even before the skulls start flying, never mind finish. So if the opponent doesn't have power when you tag in, okay, so you don't steal their power, but you don't need to worry about them doing a special when the special's disabled finishes. And if they have power, you steal it. That means she's got great synergy with Quake Engine. I know this is not Rebirth Raven week, but if you play her like this, she's got great synergy with Quake Engine, which boosts by 50% the damage against an opponent with less than a bar of power, which is going to be the case most of the time when you tag in Rebirth Raven, because she just steals it. You don't even have to worry about LexCorp gear set, which is neat. Because, so the LexCorp gear set has that ability with 2 gears that will reverse power drain, so your opponent will get a bunch of power. But it works funny because you'll still get power. You both get power when the ability triggers. So with Hawkgirl Prime speeding up your tag-ins, the opponent's specials get disabled from Hawkgirl Regime or Regime Hawkgirl. Then you tag in Rebirth Raven. You steal power. The opponent's specials are still disabled. So no matter what, you get your specials unloaded before the opponent, no matter how many bars they have, no matter Rebirth Raven reversing the power steal if the opponent's got Luxor Gauntlets. It doesn't matter. Like, the timing is just amazing. Really, it's Static and Redland here out, Jordan. I think that are going to be the biggest problems. But as good as this is, because this team and strategy with Regime Hawkgirl relies so heavily on quick tag-ins and tag-outs, that makes this team especially vulnerable to an opponent that has Quake Engine on a Joker, which negates the benefit you get from Hawkgirl Prime because it slows down your tag-in and tag-out, so you have to wait longer. And you're also at the mercy of teams that have entry hazards like Arkham Knight, Harley Quinn, or Gaslight Batman. And I'm hoping to get to a question in next week's Q&A where someone has a comment about this. And I've got a few things and a few ideas about really maxing out the entry hazard potential of a team. Okay, so that is 172 weeks of a repeating pattern that first appeared May 2020. We have now had, if we include Regime Hawkgirl, 4 complete cycles of a 43-week sequence. She's the last one. If the pattern holds, the 5th cycle will start next week with Luchador Bane. So we started using challenge characters for demos in our weekly recap starting November 17th, 2022. We finished the cycle. We are 3 away from having done demos of all the challenge characters that are available in the current rotation because of 3 interruptions. That's Batman Ninja Joker, John Stewart Green Lantern, and Arkham Origins Bane. And we will be trying to do some videos of those 3 characters in the next little bit before their slots come back again. And the implication and the truth is that there are still 23 challenge characters that are still missing from the cycle. And hopefully we'll get around to doing some demos of them too, preferably because they come back into our challenge cycle. Anyways, so this week's multiplayer reward is Nightwing's Ninjato, which becomes Brandished Ninjato. Its effects when maxed out are retarget 90% of enemy area of effect damage to wielder of this item with 50% damage absorb, 40% max health increase. If you're Nightwing, you reflect 16% of damage. And when evolved, there's 300% of received area of effect damage as power. Last available February 2nd, 2023. That's 140 weeks in a row of a consistent pattern, 4 complete cycles, 31 reward sequence, and this is the 16th in the 5th cycle. Unlike the challenge cycle, nothing is missing for multiplayer rewards. If the pattern holds, next week's should be Riddler's Staff. All right, so I know some people like this gear given how often we see it on metal teams, specifically on Batman Ninja Nightwing. Great defensive gear, but I still haven't found a good use for it on our own teams since there is very little offensive potential. I mean, there is offensive potential, but it only comes in that specific scenario where you're facing someone who does significant splash damage, and then it can give you a lot of power while also protecting the rest of your team. That being said, there's definitely an interesting synergy to the abilities. So 90% of splash damage gets pulled onto the character holding the Ninjato, and 50% of that gets dissipated, meaning teammates only get hit with 10% of the original splash damage, and the holder of the Ninjato gets 45% of the splash damage, that's half of the 90, in addition to the original special damage if they're the one facing the opponent. So 40% boosted health means that there's a better chance of surviving the special and extra splash damage that you're taking. 300% of received splash becomes power, and we discussed this in a previous Q&A, but that means if you look at your full bar, the percentage of health that you lose is tripled and given as a percentage of power. So if you lose 1/3 of health, you get 100%, the full whatever amount of power you have as power, or your power sort of your limit, your how much sort of power you can get, because not everybody's maxed out to the full 3, the special 1, special 2, and super to get the full 3 bars available. So damage reflection is good. 16% is not a lot in most cases. So here's the problem using it on your own team. The biggest potential splash damage cards are Lucha Bane and any of the Batgirls, and they so rarely get a chance to hit us that taking up an entire gear slot out of 9 to generate the power for only those specific situations where they actually get to launch a special at us, it just isn't worth it. It's definitely more of a defensive gear that you could use on a team if you're planning to leave it for defense and multiplayer and not playing it yourself. But even then, it isn't as a gear on the opponent. It isn't a problem for a Flashpoint team, for example, because Deathstroke is geared to do a lot of splash damage. Probably shouldn't be a problem with most splash damage teams, right? Because if you're doing splash and have Tentu Totem and someone's coming with lots of power because of the Ninjato after their teammate got knocked out, then you get your power back. And it's just a race. You do another special with the power you get back. And you can win that race to do specials. It's harder if they come in with 3 bars and do a super. They will beat you in that race. So as you can see from some examples against Killing Joke Joker, where we don't try to knock them out last, Enchantress Companion Gear does a good job of buying us time to knock out people tagging in with 3 bars of power without letting them use it. So that's the best example of how you can counter that. Somebody coming in with Enchantress Companion Gear in the skulls. It's great gear. In my mind, it's probably the best of all the Suicide Squad gears. So if it's the person in front of you with Ninjato, they're just more likely to get knocked out because they're taking the damage of the special and they're taking the damage from the splash damage. Even if the splash is reduced and 16% of the damage is reflected on you, they're still taking a lot of damage. And an interesting weird effect that, this is going to be our first of the week, so it's not worth going into so much more detail because this will be a long and tedious video, but I want to point out and remind everybody there's an interesting weird effect is how it works if the person facing you has a Ninjato, and especially if it's Nightwing, and you've got Master's Death card. I'm not going to explain all of it, but because Master's Death card does that extra splash damage, you get to see the Ninjato holder have their power start rising and continue to rise right after you've done a special, but your power comes up too. So if you knock them out, it's fine, but if you don't, they're building up a ton of power to knock you out. So it's interesting. Great gear, I think, in specific circumstances, just not one that we've been able to take advantage of. So in the store, Arkham Pack 1 is back, $24.99. It was last available about 6 months ago, March. Contains 3 powerful random gold cards in the Arkham series. And it says new, just added, Arkham Knight Batman, Arkham Knight Harley Quinn, and the Arkham Knight. Not that new. It's been like that for a while in the last few iterations, in the last, 2 years. It's been pretty much the same, where there's a 10% chance of Arkham Knight Batman, Catwoman, Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins Bane, Arkham Origins Batman, Arkham Origins the Joker, and this is 40% another gold character. And based on our previous pack openings, there's 10% Arkham Knight Harley Quinn, and instead of actually including as many Arkham characters all at 10%, they've got Arkham Origins Deathstroke at 15% and Arkham Harley Quinn, not Arkham Knight, Arkham Harley Quinn at 15%. And you would have hoped that they could have had 10 characters. There's still 2 missing, right? You only get 9 different characters, and we're missing Arkham Killer Croc and Arkham Knight Batgirl. Arkham Knight Batgirl is the single best and most important Arkham Knight character, I think, that should be on every Arkham team. And they're missing. So, the other new pack this week is a Survivor pack for 670,000 power credits. It comes with the 2 Scorpions, Mortal Kombat X Scorpion and regular Scorpion, and Bounty Hunter Lobo. A little bit expensive. It is a month and a half after the last Survivor pack, so maybe we've got a slight cycle going, because if there is going to be another Survivor pack, it's probably going to be Killer Frost, Wonder Woman 600, and Killer Frost Regime, which is the one that has been not in for the longest. There's a whole sequence. So hopefully we'll see that again soon, maybe another month and a half, fingers crossed. So character bundle Women of Power, second week, we talked about it last week, and the Femme Fatale pack is not here. It's finally gone after 4 weeks, which is interesting. Bunch of other packs which have been here for almost 2 years now. We won't get into the detail. They're pretty much regular packs in the store. And Phantom Zone has one more week left. Fight 62 still broken. Last weekend's breakthrough for golds was Zatanna, Flash, and Solomon Grundy. This coming weekend for gold is probably going to be Raven, Superman, and the Arc Knight. So as far as the current glitches go, we go into the more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. But we also do a more detailed review once a month, which this is the beginning of September. So it's been a month. And if you don't want to go into or listen to all this jibber jabber, you can see a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Glitches, linked in the description of this video and the eye in the top right corner. So, current glitches. Significant not working glitches are worth mentioning at the beginning, only because we get a lot of questions about them, and the one that people ask about the most is probably the glitch for power credits. So we talk about this in more detail in a previous Q&A, Season 6, Episode 9, of when it was called a P and Q and C and A and T. And there's might be a glitch. It's not one that we're willing to endorse, because some people have been exploiting glitch that requires 2 devices logged simultaneously into one account. And the risk is that you could get your account suspended. Not worth it. Glitch for getting repeated past multiplayer season rewards is not working. Glitch for early multiplayer season rewards is not working in a way that is exploitable. In fact, it's probably the most common reason why people don't get the rewards at the end of a season, is because it triggered inadvertently at the beginning. There's no glitch to get through Phantom Zone quickly, although we've got a bunch of videos where we do speed runs. And the glitch that used to let you get free energy without watching the video, also not working. As something separate from the time shifting glitch for free energy, which is working. So, working glitches. The glitch to let you play Phantom Zone repeatedly is still working. The challenge reset method that requires Google Play Cloud Save is also working, confirmed on the current Regime Hawkgirl challenge. And the reason why it's worth mentioning together is that the challenge reset and the Phantom Zone reset, they're both essentially the same thing. So when you are removing progress on one, you're removing progress on the other. Keep that in mind. Phantom Zone crystal progress generally slower. So if you have any and you're going to reset the challenge, just keep that in mind, that you're going to be losing the Phantom Zone progress too. And cut and pasted from comment into the description is a comment from Tame Kakde about how you can, instead of having to re-download a full gig of data every time, that you can just shift it around while you do challenge reset. Breakthrough glitch to let you play repeatedly, still working. Airplane mode / refund glitch, good for packs with random drops, also known as loot boxes, and last laugh tickets is working. It is not working for us in the Phantom Zone because that requires an online connection. Time shifting still works in Android for unlimited survivor play and energy recharges. Remember, return your cooldown or countdown clock back to normal before you finish, or you're running a big risk of not having events show up. Events being the challenges and the Phantom Zone. And finally, in between not working and working glitches, there's the promotion glitch that would let you promote characters that were still locked in your store. The conditions have not been right since update 2.14. So technically it hasn't failed us yet because the conditions haven't been there, but it's also not usable. And it's been a few years since the conditions were actually right. So once it's actually failed us for the first time, when the conditions indicate that it should be working, first time that happens, we will remove it from that list. And that's it. Long week. So a big thank you to our supporters on Patreon. That would be Alexis M supporting us on the Your Message Here tier, Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, and Hoshi 127 supporting us on the credited level, and the other people whose names you see on the screen right now are those who have been generous enough to have supported us at some point during this pandemic. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Komoda.